our first kind of product is our precision multivitamin, which looks at over 100 health data points across DNA, blood, lifestyle, and soon to be hormone levels as well. And we use all of those data points to create and deliver a precise smart formula of up to 20 nutrients in our unique format, which is microbeads. And then we can help you track what's working through follow-up blood testing and through additional lifestyle analytics and continuously improve that formula as your body changes. It really depends on per member what data they're incorporating, but we look at over 50 plus genetic variations. We look at vitamin deficiency, we look at mineral deficiency and inflammation levels, as well as what your current diet, activity, sleep, and other lifestyle habits look like.
Awesome. I'm live with Rachel Sanders, co-founder and CEO of Rootine. It's awesome to have you here today, Rachel.
Thanks so much for having me. Excited to be here.
Yes, for those out there that don't know what Rootine is yet, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you're building?
Yeah, definitely. I can tell you a little bit more about the story and how Routine came to be. So early in my life, the medical system really failed me, as it does a lot of people. I had to turn to my own nutrition and lifestyle to really heal some of the gut problems and get rid of my pain. And fast forward, started my career in investment banking, focused on healthcare and health tech. I was busy working all day, dealing with stress, fatigue, burnout, like a lot of busy professionals do. And I found myself once again searching for these kind of more convenient solutions focused on nutrition and lifestyle instead of going the traditional medical route. But had to do a lot of guess and check work. What was wrong, how to fix it. I wasted a bunch of time, money on solutions that didn't work, which was really frustrating to me. And at the same time, I was seeing all of this technology and data innovation in the healthcare industry, focusing on sick care, and wanted that same innovation and help in more the nutrition and lifestyle side of things. Went to get my MBA, and through that connected with my co-founder, Daniel. He has a PhD in biotechnology, which means he's a crazy smart scientist, also serial entrepreneur, really focused on building consumer products around better use of their individual health data. And we really came together around this massive problem that I had experienced, that he had experienced, where we knew that a personalized approach to health with a focus around lifestyle nutrition interventions helps people live longer, healthier, and it has an opportunity to prevent people from getting sick later in life or earlier in life. But figuring out what was right for me, for you, as an individual is really overwhelming. It's expensive and it's really time consuming, and you don't know if it's going to work. So a lot of people do all of this without any results. And so we built Routine really to help people get better use of their health data. So we use technology to quickly connect the dots between your health data and solutions that work, and then deliver them to your door, starting first with nutrition. And at Routine, we do this by first understanding what your body needs to perform optimally. We offer at-home lab testing, lifestyle analytics, and soon to be wearable analytics. We then provide the insights, the products, and the recommendations to help you get to where you need to go. And we track what's working and what's not to continuously improve your routine over time.
Very cool. So personalized, preventative care, precision preventative care, personalized nutrition, definitely trending now. And I think we have a lot of the technology to make that possible. And folks don't need to necessarily have a functional doc in there or an integrative doctor in their neighborhood anymore. They can basically come to the Routine website and tell you all about a little bit about themselves. And then what kind of testing are you sending back to folks in order for them to basically send back to you? And what does that process look like?
Yeah. So our first kind of core product is our precision or smart multivitamin, which looks at over 100 health data points across DNA, blood, lifestyle, and soon to be hormone levels as well. And we use all of those data points to create and deliver a precise smart formula of up to 20 nutrients in our unique format, which is microbeads. And then we can help you track what's working through follow-up blood testing and through additional lifestyle analytics and continuously improve that formula as your body changes. So it really depends on per member what data they're incorporating, but we look at over 50 plus genetic variations. We look at vitamin deficiency, we look at mineral deficiency and inflammation levels, as well as what your current diet, activity, sleep, and other lifestyle habits look like.
Inflammation levels, how do you diagnose or find that out? Is that through the blood as well?
Yeah, so our vitamin test includes two inflammation markers as well. So we look at HSCRP and homocysteine.
And is the blood test an at-home do-it-yourself, or are you sending phlebotomists to people's homes?
Our blood tests today are at-home finger pricks, and we have two. We have the vitamin test, and then we have the mineral test.
Interesting. And then can you tell us a little bit more about who your customer is today and maybe even how that's evolved since you've launched? For example, how are you acquiring these folks? Are they coming to you? Are you doing performance marketing? What is the messaging that you're sending out to them in order for them to raise their hand and say, hey, I need this. Um, it's something I want to use or try.
Yeah, our members are really busy professionals who want an edge up, whether it's at home, at work, or on the field. And so these folks have tried a lot of different solutions already. So they've maybe done one-on-one health consults. They've done that DIY guess and check methodology that I went through when I was in investment banking, and they're just really ready to find something that works and to be able to know that it's actually working. And that's the great thing about what we're doing is we test to understand that baseline, but we're also retesting. So we have that feedback loop to see what's working and what's not. Um, and I know you asked about kind of how we're finding these people. A lot of people are coming to us through word of mouth, organic kind of marketing tactics, or like we have a podcast, we're on podcast. People just really resonate with the story and want something new and want a better solution for them. So they're really coming to us for that.
And right now, you're primarily focused on nutrition and a daily supplement, right? Like a daily vitamin.
Yep. So today, the first product, the Smart Multivitamin, is really around daily foundational nutrition. But we're really seeing a lot of member demand for additional solutions across other categories that really matter to them. And we're continuing to kind of dive in there. So, what are the boosters on top of that daily foundational nutrition support that our members are really looking for and can really make a difference in their health?
How, as a founder in the space, have you thought about what nutrition and daily supplementation can support or fix in a patient or a customer versus the types of things outside of supplementation that the patient or the end user needs to fix on their own um, in order to get into equilibrium or a better state of optimum health, sleep, exercise, movement, diet outside of, eating the right things. How do you all think about that? And do you foresee yourselves playing in the other components of well-being?
Yeah, it's a great question. So when you look at health, it's not just in a kind of one approach. You really need to be thinking about what am I doing from a nutrition perspective? How am I moving? Um, what am I doing with my mental health? How am I sleeping? And it all really plays together and interacts with each other. In terms of kind of how we think about where nutrition plays a role, and specifically micronutrients, which is the vitamins, minerals, and specialty compounds that we're really focused on today, is your cells really need these compounds to be healthy. And if your cells aren't healthy, you're not going to be able to optimize in other categories. And so you really need to be making sure you're doing that foundational work from a nutrition standpoint so that you can think about how do I optimize my sleep? How do I optimize my movement? How do I optimize my mental health? And then similarly, impact sleep impacts nutrition, mental health impacts nutrition, exercise impacts nutrition. So making sure we're taking into account not only what you need to perform optimally in the other areas, but making sure we're taking into account what you're doing in those other areas in terms of what you need for your nutrition.
Mm. And what are some of those areas that you found that people need the most help or support? Like, where are people really deficient or lacking when you are running their panels and looking at their and diagnosing their tests?
Yeah, the biggest deficiency from kind of the blood testing standpoint, looking across vitamin and minerals, is vitamin D3, which a lot of people are deficient in overall, but over 60% of our members do have a deficiency in D3 when they start with us.
Anywhere else? That's interesting. I guess people don't get out in the sun, and in some places during the winter, you don't have as much sun as you would like. So that makes sense.
Yeah, other nutrients that we look at, not necessarily deficient, but suboptimal, either high or low, is there's B vitamins, and iron is another important one that kind of matters when it comes to nutrition health.
Got it. Yeah, for me, another part of this kind of space that I'm curious about is like a lot of these companies now, for different parts of the journey outside of nutrition per se and supplementation or daily vitamin, are sending these at home tests. You have Modern Fertility doing it for fertility. You have a couple companies now doing it for skincare, hormones for skincare, and the list is going on and on. How, being in the investment banking space and now being an entrepreneur in this world, where do you think the future lies in terms of which companies are going to consolidate? Are people going to use different versions of this, for different parts of their health journey? And then I know this is a lot of questions, but how and what parts of it are going to go back to in person, actually seeing a doctor? Uh, I almost think of it as the pandemic highlighted the need for on demand fitness. And on demand fitness just became a huge thing. Peloton, everyone was talking about it. And now, as we've kind of come out of the pandemic, people are going back to in person gyms and studios. And I'm curious whether the same trend will happen in this at home diagnostic and supplement space or healthcare space, where people are going to kind of come top of funnel through at home, but then be like, you know what? I actually want to see a physician in my neighborhood.
Yeah, it's a really great question. So in terms of how kind of I see what the future of health looks like, is it's personalized, which means that people are looking at data points to make health and wellness decisions. Who's making those decisions is also changing. So consumers are still at the forefront of their health, and they will be. But as we go forward, it's really around how are consumers or patients partnering with the providers to work on the things that matter most to them, whether it's because they need it the most or because they're trying to optimize around a specific category. What isn't going to go back to return to normal or return to where it was is the once a year physical, where consumers had no input in what they wanted to do or what they wanted to know about their health. And so those trends were already happening before the pandemic. This concept of health at home. If you look in traditional services, you have hospice at home, you have bringing the hospital home, you have all of these concepts. You bringing clinical trials home. How do you get more people? If you're at home, you're spending less money on healthcare. And so if you look at the entire health ecosystem, patients want to spend less money, providers want to spend less money, employers want to spend less money. So this concept of putting patients in the driver's seat of their health through at-home diagnostics, at-home solutions, makes sense for everyone. And so this concept isn't going away.
Okay, this is getting interesting now. So once a year, uh, physical is like the status quo, or like what people, quote unquote, should be doing. And uh, you know, uh, even in that physical, I recently went through this. A lot of the things that you might want to test for as a patient, you are not allowed to, or you're going to get charged an arm and a leg to test for those things because it's not covered by insurance, or insurance, doesn't look at it as necessary or needed. How do you think about the sort of insurance component to this market? And then how do you think patients or consumers should think about the out of pocket spend that they're going to need to do for things like routine and others on a monthly or yearly basis?
It's a great point. So a lot of people that kind of do that annual physical, as you just mentioned, they go and they think, oh, I'm going to get my vitamin panel. I'm going to see where I'm deficient in minerals. I'm going to understand my inflammation, my metabolic health. And the reality is what's covered is a couple of analytes that someone somewhere decided was like the standard for every single human, and that's what's covered. If you want anything else, you either maybe need to go to follow-up blood work, which isn't ever 100% covered. You need to go to a specialist, which costs a ton of money,
You have to
or you
lie.
need to purchase it. Yeah,
Honestly, you have
or
to
you
go
need to
there and say, I've been eating a lot of sushi. I'm worried about my mercury levels. Or someone told me I have mold. My landlord told me I have mold in my house. I'd like to get my, whatever, other heavy metals tested or things like that. Right.
Right. And especially, and if you try to do that, it doesn't work, and you go to a lab that's normally covered, your costs are astronomical. Whereas if you purchase or get access to an at-home lab test, or if you have the opportunity to do an at-home phlebotomist, depending on what you're needing to be checked, that is much more affordable, to get the information that you want and often need to really feel your best, because a lot of what's going on in our bodies, the common and chronic conditions, whether it's stress, it's fatigue, it's energy levels, it can be broken down to minerals. It can be broken down into vitamins. It can be broken down into those hormones, whether it's cortisol levels for testing your stress or understanding kind of your metabolic health. And you don't always get that at the doctor. So that's one piece of it. And then as we think about insurance plans, especially kind of the trend that we've seen, and this started happening probably 10 plus years ago, but we have these high deductible plans where for people that are normally healthy, you're not going to reach your deductible unless you have some sort of large medical expense. And so you go to these lab tests, you're probably paying for them anyways. And so why not go and save money through these at-home solutions versus going to that doctor and then having to pay the doctor and then pay the specialist and pay the lab fees and go back to the lab fees. It's a lot less convenient for the patient.
Mm. But then, and then how would you advise that everyday consumers think about I know this is different. This depends on your lifestyle. It depends on your income. It depends on a lot of different factors, but how much on average do you think consumers that care about this stuff should or could expect to pay on a monthly basis out of pocket to make sure that they're getting the right cadence or a higher cadence of testing and this type of support? Is it like $500 a month? Is it $1,000 a month?
It's a great point to think about, and it's really, I mean, health is personal. That's why we're here. That's why Routine is here, and so it's really hard to give a standard answer. So my recommendation is to spend more upfront, do the testing. So at Routine, we have 3, soon to be 4 different tests. Do all of those tests, understand where your body is, and then from there, create a personalized plan for follow-up testing. If you're optimal levels in everything, maybe test again in 6 months. If you're deficient, test in a month or in 3 months, and really figure out from there. Average pricing per analyte, I would say, would be between $20 to $50, depending on who you're going to for your at-home testing. If you're able to test more analytes, so an analyte is a single like vitamin, so D3, for example. If you're able to bundle that and get like multiple analytes, it's $20 to $50 per analyte and sometimes more. So if you look at the at-home lab testing, a lot of tests only have 1 or 2 things that they're testing. So maybe it's like vitamin D and HSCRP, and you're spending $60 for that test. So with our test, we have 6 analytes in our vitamin test. And it's on the lower end of that, 20 to $50.
Interesting. So you guys are only so just to better understand, you all are only testing for 5 analytes?
The vitamin test tests for 6, the mineral test tests for 6, and the DNA test, which is not a blood test, and that's different pricing, looks at 50 SNPs.
Got it. Got it. So, and then in an average physical, uh you're also testing for, things like cholesterol and blood cell count and stuff like that. You all are not touching that.
Correct. We don't currently test for those categories.
Why not? If you're going ahead and doing the types of testing, like why not make it more uh, do everything at once rather than just vitamins and minerals?
Yeah, I think there's an opportunity to expand the testing as it becomes more affordable and more accessible to people, especially a company like ours being able to do that. As it looks like, for instance, LDL cholesterol, the tying it specifically to the micronutrients that we're offering right now isn't as helpful as, for instance, tying what is your vitamin D levels right now. And so that's really where we started. But as we look at kind of other solutions that can help members improve their health, looking at those more traditional panels could make a lot of sense.
Hmm. And then average cost, you mentioned on the lower end of the 20 to 50. What can a consumer expect to pay if they came to Routine first time and then on a monthly going basis in order to sort of like maintain or optimize their health?
Yeah. So our lab tests start at $95 or per quarter for a quarterly testing membership, or 115 for a one-time test. And our smart multivitamin is $69 a month.
Got it. Cool. Would love to ask one more question, sort of just around the space and market, and then I'd love to get a little bit deeper into maybe your health and wellness and how things have gone for you after you've started this company and sort of dug into this world. The last one is, for me as an more avid, potentially a more avid consumer, like I care about my health, I want to be proactive about it. Even for me, it can be hard to really dissect what companies in and around this space are doing differently, to really dive in. How would you advise consumers who care about this stuff to really, what should they look for? How should they compare, contrast different at home and personalized treatment plans?
Yeah, it's a great question. I can start with showing kind of saying how routine's different and then other ways that you can kind of look and assess. So in terms of routine, we're kind of three main ways and categories that we look at. So we help people reach their goals faster, and we actually show them measurable results. And so, for instance, 100% of people who are retesting with us either maintain or improve their blood nutrient levels in at least one analyte. And we also have self reported results where 80% of people are showing some health improvement in at least one category, like lower stress or better energy. So, everything we do, we have that diagnostic component, products based on what the data is saying, and then we help you track your outcomes so that we're continuously evolving it over time. And that's really unique in this space. Secondly, we really help people save time and money by removing the guesswork out of health. There's so many one size fits all solutions where you're just not sure if you need it or if it'll work for you. You have to test first, take the product, try out the solution, and then retest to really figure out if it's working. And we make it really easy to do that. And then the third is that we're really the most precise solution on the market. So, looking at over 100 health data points across different categories of data. So, we look at DNA, we look at blood, lifestyle, and soon to be hormones versus just looking at blood or just looking at genetics. Because if you're only looking at a single piece of it, you're missing everything else that's going on in the body. And so, as you're assessing what makes sense for me, what do I want to do? What do I want to try? Um, Test your body first. And that can come from what are your wearables saying about your HRV to doing like a full diagnostic blood panel that you go into a lab for. So, find a way to get a baseline from what you want to improve. Get products that are meant to improve that specific health goal, and then continuously check and see what's going on with what those metrics are. And as you look at products, you want to make sure they are selected for your health goal, they are personalized to you, which is really hard to find in this market and something Routine does uniquely well. Um, and that they are really high quality. So that means they're following all the FDA guidelines that they need to. They're getting third party testing. There is outcomes data that is valid for those products. And those would be the kind of core things I would think about. What I would not do is jump on a fad that everyone else is doing, because health is personal. You don't know what you
Example of
need
that?
until you test.
Is there an example
Like
of
a
a
fad that
fad?
everyone's doing.
Yeah, yeah, that you've seen.
I mean, intermittent fasting is a fad. It works for a lot of people for specific health goals. It doesn't work for some people. And so you don't know if it's going to work for you, or if it's safe for you, until you really kind of look at what's going on in your body. So that's an example. Or any standard multivitamin that you go in and buy from a Walgreens or a Walmart, you don't really know what's in it. You don't know if it's going to work. And you don't really know what you're paying for. So that's another example.
Hmm. And then what happens at Routine if someone goes through your, standard testing and treatment plan or supplement plan, and then they still feel really bad? What kind of recommendations does Routine make recommendations or referrals to other companies that are doing things innovatively, or do you just say, hey, you should go talk to your doctor? How do you think about sort of that ongoing support if the solution's not enough for them?
It depends on what bad means. If someone's having a adverse health reaction or some sort of health condition, we're not here to diagnose or treat your kind of specific health condition. So in that case, definitely we recommend going to speak with your doctor. Um, if it's someone who is looking for stress management solutions, or wants to check in on their metabolic health or things along those lines, we offer a lot of support across personalized education and insights, curated brands that we work with, that we make suggestions to folks to check out. And we're working on a number of other solutions in this area around how do we further support our members in the areas that matter most to them.
That's awesome. So you, you mentioned part of what drove you to start this company was sort of your own health journey, and you went on this path of diagnosing, trying these catch-all solutions, didn't work. Where are you at today? I know you just had a baby, so that might also impact sort of where you're at today. Probably does. But where are you at a high level? What kind of other mechanisms or modalities have you incorporated outside of maybe the routine uh, solution?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a busy working parent, like a lot of people are. I might be a little bit busier than a lot of people because I'm a founder. As I'm sure you know, being a founder is a 24/7 job. You don't really get breaks. Your off time is like doing what you actually like to do, and your work time is doing what you have to do. Um, but that all to say is, I really look for solutions that are convenient, that tell me what I need to do, and make sure I have myself covered. And that's why I love Routine. Ever since I started the company, I'm confident that I know that I'm getting what I need on a daily basis from a nutrition standpoint to help support everything that I'm doing in my day. My energy's improved. I've seen improvements across my sleep and my stress levels. My stress levels are a little higher these days, as you mentioned. I just had a baby number two, so cortisol is a little all over the place. But excited to dig in a little further there. And as I look towards kind of going on my second back to health journey postpartum, it's less about weight loss and more about let's get my body back to performing optimally, and my mind. I love that with Routine, I can test where I am from a vitamin and mineral deficiency standpoint. Um, Soon to be able to test my kind of cortisol and hormone levels, um, make sure that I'm taking what I need, because being a mom is really hard. Being a founder is really hard. You put them together and your life is basically chaos. So it's hard to get everything you need on a daily basis. Outside of Routine, I wear different wearables. I've got my Apple Watch on right now, mostly because I'm working out with Future. So I've been using Future for about a year.
Oh, nice.
I
Shout out
love
to
their
Future.
solution. I've always loved, yeah. Yeah, love Josh, love their team. love their solution. I used the app throughout my pregnancy. I just had to stop postpartum because you can't work out for like 6 to 8 weeks, which for people that love exercise is really hard. I sometimes wear a Whoop. I'll probably start wearing one now that I'm going to try to kind of max my performance out a little bit more. I've worn levels on and off. Super interesting insights that you got there. Intermittent fasting was one where I thought I should never do it because of my blood sugar levels. I put on a levels, tested it out, and it's perfectly healthy for me to do and actually helps me stabilize blood sugar levels later in the day. So those are kind of the tools. And then I try to sleep as much as I can. I don't have an 8 sleep yet, but I want to get one. I need to convince my partner on that one to spend the money there for the pod cover is probably what we would do. But sleep isn't always an answer with a little one.
Mm, super cool. How has sort of being in the health space, wellness space, and you mentioned, it's number two. So how has it impacted number one and the types of products you let your baby have or eat versus the ones you don't? How has it impacted you as a parent?
Yeah, I've always been someone who is very health conscious. Not only is it something I do for work, but it's something I do for fun or as a personal kind of part of my life, anyways. And so I always think about, all right, are our kids going outside? Our 10-week-old can't go run around, but our 3-year-old certainly can. So is she getting like sunlight? Are we making sure she's getting outside when she can and getting movement? Nutrition is hard with kids. It's just they want to eat what they want to eat. But a couple of things that I do specifically with my toddler is she loves mac and cheese and hates meat. Um, so that doesn't bode for like great blood sugar levels or just like overall nutrition. So we, instead of normal mac and cheese, we use Bonza, which is chickpea pasta. So she gets extra protein. And then we found this one frozen chicken thing that she will eat. But it's half chicken, half cauliflower with whole wheat from Whole Foods. And so I try to fit in the nutrients where I can. She loves green juice, not great for blood sugar levels, but we get a lot of nutrients in her because she'll drink carrots and celery and cucumbers and kale. And so that's kind of how I try to do it. But you can't be perfect all the time, especially not with kids. And so that's kind of how we approach it. Do as good as you can. The interesting piece as a parent is different people have different philosophies when it comes to health and nutrition or in different belief systems, especially generationally. And so if you believe something, it becomes that how do you get other people around you to believe it and or at least like work with you? And that's something that's been a challenge that we didn't really expect to be as big of a challenge as it is.
Yeah, yeah. The social factor, whether it's friends or family or the kids' friends, parents, things like that, you mean?
Exactly. So it's grandparents or other friends or other kids eating various things or cousins eating Sonic or something along those lines. It's a teaching lesson where you can make decisions around your own body, but they might not be exactly the same as somebody else's. And so eat what makes you feel good and what gives you nutrients, and we help teach them that. And that's kind of how you go forward.
Yeah, and then outside the physical, I know you all are working on some products around stress management. You mentioned that's something that you're thinking about as a founder and mom. Do you have any sort of mental health, spiritual practices that sort of help you stay grounded or stay kind of can help you alleviate stress as well?
Yeah, I mean, stress is such a huge thing for so many people. We're in the middle of mental health crisis. It's the number one kind of condition category that our members really think about. Outside of making sure I'm getting what I need from a daily basis, stress is the number one thing I think about too and deal with. And so really excited about the program that we're launching that can really help with this outside of medication as well, because some people don't want to take medication when it comes to their mental health. And so really excited about that, and we'll be sharing more here in a couple of weeks, to how we have built something that's really a holistic solution, across testing, products, recommendations, educations, and consults to help people handle their stress better at home. And from what I do uh, myself to manage stress, is movement matters. And that's not just like going to the gym and making sure I'm like hitting my like crazy cardio workouts or like lifting really heavy weights. It's even just like getting outside for a 20-minute walk with my dog, to give myself a mental break throughout the day. I calendar everything, to try to make some control out of a schedule that isn't controllable as a founder. Um, I also meditate, so I use Calm quite a bit. Uh, and I've recently started going to infrared saunas and actually doing my meditation in the sauna, which has been extremely helpful. And I've really loved that new practice. I don't always get the pleasure of 45 minutes in a sauna myself, but when I can, I really enjoy it.
Super cool. Um, you mentioned something that I wanted to double click on the stress management side. I know the product is still pending to be released, but does it happen to include ashwagandha in it?
We'll share more details on the ingredients for the various products that we're offering when we launch it.
Okay. All right. So folks will have to tune in and go check that out. And then you mentioned calendaring everything. I'm curious for a minute to also double click on other mental models, systems that that have helped you stay productive, stay organized, stay as clear minded as possible as a leader. Anything you can share around that outside the calendar blocking?
Yeah. So kind of digging in a little on the more on the calendar blocking, I actually structure like my week very specifically. So Mondays we have all internal calls. That's when I do my one-on-ones with my leadership team. It's when we do department syncs, and our all hands sync, and also have some time in the afternoon for if there's any like recruiting based calls or extra calls that we need for um, internal folks. Tuesday is deep work day. I do not schedule anything, as is Friday. Though sometimes on Fridays I will do some external stuff like this, and then kind of Wednesday and Thursday is when I do most of my external calls, and so I always have time for deep work, deep thinking during the week. I have time for extra stuff that rolls over, which also helps me be like calmer as a human throughout the week, knowing that on Fridays, if there's extra stuff I have to finish, I have that time blocked already. So that's really helpful. And then in terms of like throughout the rest of the week, I think this goes back to my time when I was in, honestly, in high school when I would play soccer on Saturdays and couldn't do any work, but I try to take Saturdays off, um, so that I at least give myself one day of break. Not always the case, but I try to. And then I will try to prep for the week on Sundays, if I can. With the second baby, that's an infant, that's a little harder. And then I always take time off at night, to spend time eating dinner, spend time with my kids, time with my partner, and give myself that like mental freedom to say I am not working during this time, and that is okay. And that's something else we do at Routine too, is we allow people to set those boundaries as long as they're being efficient at work. So if they're like, I need to take an hour off every afternoon at 2 o'clock to go on a walk because that makes me the most productive human that I can be, great, do it. Just make sure you're getting all of your work done. And so that those are some of the other things that I do, um, to help me stay productive and mentally clear. I also sleep a lot when I can.
I love that. And you should definitely get the 8 sleep. It's incredible. I would highly, highly recommend it. And it's so amazing. Like as a founder, I think in this space, you'll just, as you start using it and just see how retention is built into the product, it's pretty amazing to think about because wearables you could take off, you take on, but if you enjoy the experience, it's like in your bed. It's in your bed every single night, and adds value too. Um, it's pretty cool. I was gonna ask about employee wellness. So you kind of read my mind. Outside of like giving employees that type of flexibility to do their own work, do their work at their own time, and kind of set their own work life boundaries. Is there anything else you've implemented in order to have employees, filling up their cup and taking care of themselves?
Yeah, I mean, it's health is personal, right? I say this 1,000 times. So everyone's going to need something slightly different. Something else that we do is we do encourage people to take vacation. For our first 3 years, I don't think any of us took like more than a day off. My first time I had a baby, I took 2 weeks off, kind of. That was my maternity leave, like part time 2 weeks. And then we got to a point where it was a lot of still early members of the team, and we were just exhausted. And when that hit, we're like, you know what? We need to prioritize breaks because we know, as founders in the space, as people who are reading all of the research, that breaks create better outcomes. It's more productive. People are more creative, and that's what you need when you're building and innovating. And so we definitely implemented that. We recommend like 3 to 5 days per quarter. And me as a founder, lead from example. So I actually do that. And when I take vacation days, I'm not on Slack. I try not to be on Slack. I will probably answer emails sometimes, but generally try to actually take a vacation to show what it looks like and that it's okay to do that as an employee. So I think that's helped a lot and has also brought some more culture building around it because people are excited to share where they're going. They're excited to talk about like what they did because it's accepted and kind of built in.
Super cool. Rachel, do you have a couple minutes to end with some rapid fires, just so folks can get a better understanding of who you are altogether?
Sure, happy to.
Okay, amazing. Book you've recommended the most, either reread multiple times or has just left a lasting impact on you?
Love Never Split the Difference. I think it's just so great in terms of tactical recommendations on how to get what you want when it comes to negotiation with Chris Voss.
Cool. Favorite product at either Trader Joe's or Whole Foods, CPG product that you're loving?
It's a good question. So when I go to Whole Foods, I don't go to Trader Joe's. The parking, I live in Nashville, the parking at Trader Joe's is terrible. So I don't go. And when I go to Whole Foods, I get a lot of the like fresh stuff. And so what I love the most actually at Whole Foods is they have this vegan chicken fried tofu that is Nashville for specific, and it is fantastic.
Vegan chicken fried tofu. Interesting. Um, Purchase under $200 that you've made in the last 6 to 8 months that's provided the most value to you.
I'm gonna say Routine all the time. I guess I don't purchase it, but it's under 200 and it provides me a ton of value.
Okay. Shameless plug. I love it. One thing you're grateful for today.
I'm grateful that my 10-week-old is sleeping.
We're grateful he or she is sleeping too.
He, yeah.
Best piece of advice you've ever received.
A motto that I really live by is doing one thing that scares you every day. And it's not really advice necessarily, but it's a quote that really inspires me because it gives me the comfort to say, all right, this might be scary, but I'm just going to try it. And that's what you have to do as a founder. You're not always in your comfort zone. You're never in your comfort zone. So being okay with that and moving forward.
Nice. What's your guilty pleasure?
Rewatching old TV shows that I like loved when I was in high school. And funny enough, there's actually some new research that came out that if you rewatch shows that were live when your life was easier, it like creates like a serotonin boost and decreases anxiety. So my binge watching of like old Grey's Anatomies or Gilmore Girls or something along those lines is
It's healthy.
actually scientifically proven to reduce stress. Yes.
That's pretty cool. Who do you look up to and why?
There's probably like 5 or 6 female founders that, were in a generation, like, prior to myself, a lot of whom came from Harvard Business School, which is where I went to business school. And most of them have built amazing businesses, like the Rent the Runway founders, while having families. And that's just so rare to see, the successful female founders, who are also partners and moms, and doing other things. A couple of examples, um, Jenny Fleiss from Rent the Runway. She's now a venture partner. Alexa Von Tobel founded LearnVest. And there's a number of others kind of in that. Katrina Lake, Stitch Fix, are a couple of examples.
Cool. Um, Favorite podcast or podcast episodes or any that have left a lasting impression on you if you listen to podcasts?
Yeah, I listen to some when I have time. Huberman's great. I listen to that one. I actually really love the Levels podcast because it gives an insight into to how they're actually building the company, which is unique. Yes, they interview a lot of other guests, but they also interview other team members. And so you kind of see how they're thinking about it, what they're doing across the company, not just from an education standpoint. And I've always been a fan of How I Built This. It's probably a cliche answer for a founder, but I just get so much inspiration from hearing stories of how people have built companies. And it's honestly hearing those stories from as the lens of being an investment banker and working with founders is what inspired me to go take the leap even further into entrepreneurship. So any podcast that allows that to happen is something that I get really excited about.
Cool. And then last one, you've mentioned a bunch of different things that you do your health for your health, but I'm wondering is if someone looked outside in, what would be the craziest or most out there thing you do to optimize your well-being?
People get surprised at how much I sleep. Like, I would sleep for, like, 10 to 12 hours if I could. Like, I'll do, like, 10 at least if I can to, like, 12 hours. Um, that's not necessarily the most efficient use of your time, but throughout my life, I've always slept, like, a lot. And I feel like that helps me be a lot more productive, creative, going forward. So it's not crazy, but it is pretty odd for someone who's as busy as me, to prioritize sleep that much.
I love that. Rachel, this has been a lot of fun. Anything else you'd like to leave us with before we sign off for today? Website, where people can find you, etc.
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at Rachel S. Sanders, and you can find Routine at routine, ROOTINE.co, and on social at routine_co. And if you're interested in personalized health and precision approach to whether it's testing or nutrition products, please come check us out. And please stay tuned for the launch of our new products that are coming up.
Amazing. Well, thank you for your time. It's been awesome to learn more about you and the company, and excited about what you're doing.